Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm your host, Manjula Salvaraja. By now, most of you must have heard that Toronto Council voted this week for Scarborough to get a light rail transit line instead of a subway line. What this means is that Council has given the thumbs up to an LRT line from Don Mills to Morningside, as opposed to a subway line from Don Mills to Scarborough Centre. But even right after the vote was done, Mayor Rob Ford of Toronto vowed to keep fighting for a subway line. Let's just say this issue will come up at the next election. Here is a summary courtesy of Global TV.
They don't want subways, folks. Subways. They don't want these damn streetcars blocking up our city. That's what they don't want.
An angry Mayor Ford made a last-ditch plea to try and salvage his promise of a subway line along Sheppard.
This is going to be a boondoggle of billions of dollars.
Day two of a deeply personal transit debate saw councillors slinging mud, but doing little to reach consensus.
It's about tearing Toronto's consensus down. It's about telling some Torontonians you can have something and telling other Torontonians you have nothing.
An LRT moves slower than buses.
The final decision was a nail-biter, but it was a plan to build a light rail line from Don Mills to Morningside that won by a vote of 24 to 19. After the vote, a defeated mayor emerged.
Mr. Mayor, how are you feeling?
Well, it's obviously upsetting. The people of the city wanted subways.
With that, Ford vowed to keep fighting and promised to make the debate over light rail versus subways a key issue in the next municipal election campaign.
I'm not going to support the LRTs. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to do everything in my power to try to stop it.
Our mayor, unfortunately, is living in his own world. It's a bit of a fantasy world. He thinks he can make build subways with magic beans, and he can't.
After the stunning loss, the mayor went so far as to suggest the premier take away funding for the Sheppard project.
I'd ask him, obviously don't fund streetcars. Don't fund the LRTs.
It's not clear if the premier will listen to the mayor or take the advice of a city council that has clearly voted in favor of light rail.
The mayor is expert at one thing, and that is playing the role of the victim. And I'm afraid he's going to have to man up on this one.
So what is right for Scarborough? I have a few guests today to figure it out. First, I just want to remind people that if you'd like to call in with a comment or question for our guests, we would love to hear from you. Our number is 416-623-8100. And now on to our guests. Mitzie Hunter is the CEO of CivicAction and sits on the expert advisory panel to the city on the Sheppard extension. Piragal Thiru is a planner for one of the regions in the GTA and a DiverseCity Fellow. He is one of 25 city builders chosen in 2011 for the DiverseCity Leadership Program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So Mitzie, perhaps I can start with you. Why do you think people should care about this debate?
Well, I think this is a really important time in our city. We desperately need transit to be built out. Our growth has far exceeded what infrastructure we have, and we need better transit. It's one of the lags that we have that's really hindering our growth and our prosperity. With the decision that was made in council last week, we will finally have higher order transit that's going out into a broader part of the city. So it is good news for us, and we're able to do it in the most cost-effective way that we can to get more trains out to more people.
Good point. Piragal, what are the stresses on our existing transit system?
Stressors. I think the former director of Metrolinx put it in a very nice way, and I think I can use that quote. He says, "We have a great transit system that can move 1 million people, but only one problem. There's 5 million people to move." And I think it helps to look at this problem in a different angle if you were to look at it from a GTA. Transportation is a cross-border issue. It's not just something that Toronto is facing right now. It's the growing regions around Toronto also facing is transporting people, moving people. Mm-hmm. And I think it'll help set context to this specific issue if you look at it from a GTA lens. And as more people are moving in, there's a number of things that I can point out here that's as stressors of transit. One, the commuting patterns are no longer that people coming from 905 to 416 in the morning and vice versa in the evening. Congestions have started to build up both directions in both hours, PM and AM rush hours.
Okay.
If you look at 404, there are congestions going up both ways at some point or another. So the commuting patterns have changed as our demography and our population trends are changing across the GTA.
Is there a demographic change as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, let's take immigration, for example. The recent numbers have shown that while Toronto has dropped in direct landings from newcomers coming in, Ontario still continues to attract a lot of newcomers, and regions around Toronto, such as Peel, York, and Durham, their direct landing numbers have gone up. So what that means is newcomers, obviously when they come in, they're going to rely on transit to get around. And several studies have already pointed that transportation is a huge barrier for newcomers to access services and programs. So newcomers and members coming in. Now also we have a growing number of retiring baby boomers. For example, if we look at some facts and figures in the York region, the rate of seniors or number of senior population right now is around 91,000. By 2031, they're expecting that number to triple, going up to 300,000. So we need to have vision for a transit, but not just in Toronto, a GTA-wide initiative. So these are some of the stressors that I can think of to provide an example on
That's
transit.
actually a very interesting point. The demographic changes are something that are very pressing. So, I mean, taking that a step to a different degree, Mitzie, now CivicAction brings together city leaders. I mean, you bring together people that are affecting change in the city. What are they telling you about the status of transit? Surely it must be impacting our growth or the way that we view the city as a world-class city. I mean, what are you hearing from them?
Well, transit is one of the greatest issues that we have in our city region. And the Toronto Board of Trade study pegs the number at a $6 billion loss every year that we are missing out on because we don't have effective and efficient.
That's a substantial amount.
It is a substantial amount. And think about what could we do with $6 billion each year and the investments we could be making in our communities if we were becoming more efficient in terms of transportation.
And is that, if I can just, is that productivity that we're losing, that $6 billion, or is it investment?
It's productivity, it's investment, it's just lost opportunity. And if you look at what we need, what we really need is a transportation system and a mobility system, really, so that we can have a grid system that connects all of the city region together, and that will relieve congestion on our road systems as well. So when you talk about lost productivity, you think of people just sitting idly, either waiting at a transit stop for transit to arrive, or sitting in congested traffic. So getting transit built and built right across the city region is something that is a priority. Has to be a priority for us in the next years to come.
I would imagine that to pull investment into the city too, that it would be something that companies look at before they think of investing in a city. Which brings me to my next question that pertains to your seat on the advisory panel to the city on the Sheppard East extension. Now, what was some of the key criteria that you looked at when you evaluated the different options before you for Sheppard East?
Well, we looked at 9 criteria, and this was agreed to by all of the members on the panel. We looked at what are the economic development and financial impacts, of course. It was very critical for us to really examine that. We also looked at what's the ridership and what's the level of service. And then we also looked at what is the sustainability and the social impact of this decision. The panel had a long debate, and we decided to score along those 9 criteria and then to rank and weight our decision accordingly. And it came out in favor of light rail transit, which, by the way, is not a streetcar or a trolley, but it actually is a rail system. So if you think of a subway being sort of the Ferrari of transit system, the next level down would be light rapid transit, and that would be equivalent to, say, like a Lexus. So it's in terms of level of ridership, the money that you have to invest, it's an effective and efficient way of getting people across the city in rail transit. 115 countries around the world, or cities around the world, are utilizing this form of transit because it simply is a way to connect the grid system that we need so that we can get people moving in the city.
And that brings me to the issue of funding. And I think that people, I know I was curious about it. I'm sure our audience is too. Piragal, how is transit funded? Where do we find the money to do this? Because these are important but expensive infrastructure projects.
Absolutely. And transit, I mean, everyone knows transit is not a profiting business. It's a service that's provided for the residents. And there's a number of ways that transit is funded and infrastructure is funded. One is the tax levy, the municipal taxes that people pay. The other one's development charges, where developers, when they do new developments or they redevelop, they have to pay charges so that the city can match up services such as police, schools, childcare, transit, and so on. And then the other one is the federal gas tax that is allocated to municipalities based on the 2006 census data. And it allows municipalities to invest in green infrastructure. So transit qualifies as a green infrastructure, and those are the fundings. However, these dollars are just to get services sort of meet it day by day, to match the service that's required. However, it's not for some big projects or massive improvements like the LRT or subway or whatnot, or rapid transit. For that, we have to have input from or contribution from the provincial level and the federal level. And also, I think cities need to have dialogues around how we're going to come up with the money. So whether it's looking at options like introducing tolls to the 400 series highways, or it's a vehicle registration tax, or whether it's talking about increasing your taxes, we need to be creative. We need to have honest dialogues about having funding available or collecting money to run this project, because it is needed and we have to pay for it somehow. But it's about taking that bold step of initiating that conversation.
Now, I know that you work with, you're planners, you bring an interesting experience to the table. You are a DiverseCity Fellow, but you also volunteer with a lot of organizations in the Canadian Tamil community. Why is this of importance to the Canadian Tamil community? Why do they need to listen into this debate?
It's our city. The city we all take great pride. We live, work, and play in this city, whether it doesn't matter which region of the Greater Toronto you're in. We take great pride in our communities. We access the local facilities. It's when our tourists from different countries come in, we take them around and we show them off. So it's about having the necessary infrastructure to increase that pride in our city and truly maintain it as a world-class city. And it's our tax dollars at work. It's our kids, tomorrow that is at stake here. So are we going to build an infrastructure for them where they can raise families and continue to live, work, and play in their respective communities? Or are we going to leave them hanging? It's having that vision for tomorrow. And that's why it's important. It's our tax dollars and it's our community. It's our city. And so we need to be competitive globally. And to keep it globally competitive, we need to take the necessary actions for tomorrow.
Good point. So Mitzie, coming back to the advisory panel again, it was a 7-member panel, and definitely produced a very comprehensive report. But there have been some critics that have said two things, and I'll let you speak to them. First of all, they've said that perhaps the panel did not have enough time to spend really reviewing the different options. And the second criticism that I've heard is that perhaps the panel itself, in the way that the members were chosen, they were actually preordained to favor LRT to begin with. I don't know if you have a response to that.
Well, there's no question that the time frame was aggressive. We had 5 weeks to do our work, and the 7 members came together very quickly, working with the city manager and staff at the Toronto Transit Commission, the TTC, as well as we had expert input from Metrolinx and others. So we reviewed as much information as was available on the issue, and spent as much time as we needed within the constraints of the 5 weeks. Council wanted us to report back by March 21st, so that was the time frame that was set. I can tell you that I did not come to the panel with any decision that was made up. I wanted to review the facts and to understand how those facts would apply to the decision that was made. We knew that we had time constraints, so the provincial government had given, set aside $8.4 billion to invest in transit in our city, and we wanted to ensure that we were respectful of the time frame that was given, but also that we were making the best use of the dollars that were coming from taxpayers for this investment. So the decision was made based on a scale and a criteria that was set out and agreed to by all 7 panel members. And at the end of the day, the numbers and the evidence really spoke for themselves. The ridership numbers just don't sustain a subway choice. We would have to be subsidizing that for decades to come, which is not a great use of our dollars when there is another option that is a high quality option. And also you'll get more stops for the light rail transit, and that will serve to develop Sheppard corridor. It'll animate the corridors as people can go on and off at these multiple stops. So it is going to be a city building project. You are going to see investment and improvement as people can get around to work, to school, to play easily around the city with this new transit system. So with this $8.4 billion, we're going to experience transit in our city much differently than we do today.
Thank you. So so this has been great feedback, by the way. You've really framed for the hot debate that we have coming up. But I do want to ask you, Mitzie, you took over the role of CEO of CivicAction in December. John Tory, who's the chair of the organization, made the announcement, apparently to much applause in the room. So how has it been going? And tell us a little bit about CivicAction.
Oh, it's been wonderful. So I've been CEO of CivicAction now for just 2.5 months, so it's still very new. But it's an organization that I know well. I was a volunteer for over 10 years working on city building initiatives. And so it's really my privilege to serve as CEO. I get to work with great people right across the region to look at what are some of the biggest challenges and the biggest opportunities that we face in our region, and how do we work together to tackle those challenges or to realize those opportunities. So that's what I get to spend my day doing, and working with leaders and decision makers from right across the region, from business, from nonprofits, as well as within levels of government.
Great. Well, congratulations on the role. I'll say one thing. I mean, regardless of where everyone stands, you know, it is really lovely to know that people really care about this issue, that people are, even the folks that we have coming in for the debate, I mean, they really care about the city, and that's what we want, people to be engaged with this city. So I want to thank you both for coming on. It was a pleasure having you. I hope you'll visit again, because this topic is going to be around for a bit. You know,
we will love to come back, because one of the things that we have to talk about is how are we going to pay for this in the long term.
Yes.
So you know we need transit, and how are we going to actually pay for it and fund the services that we need?
Oh, funding. Always a hot topic.
It's a different show itself.
That's the show in itself. Thank you to both of you. Let's take a short break and come back for our big debate. You are watching CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. Welcome back to CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. I should provide some background here so people know what we're going to be talking about. This is the debate portion of our show. The LRT line will be from Don Mills to Morningside and have 25 stations and is estimated to cost $1 billion. The subway line would be from Don Mills to Scarborough Centre and have 7 stations, and it is estimated to cost $3 billion. And now on to our subways versus LRT debate. Again, a reminder that if you'd like to call in with a comment or question for our guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please ring 416-623-8100. And now our guests. Niro Mahan is a longtime Scarborough resident who works for, actually was born in Scarborough, maybe not residing there now, but he works for a Bay Street financial firm and has a strong interest in economics, real estate, and public transit. He thinks subways are the way to go. Ashwin Balamohan grew up in Scarborough, ran for the position of school trustee in Scarborough East last year, and is passionate about public policy. He feels the LRT is the right choice. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Niro, what did you think of the decision that council made this week? What were your thoughts when you heard that?
It's a tough decision, but I think everyone expected to go that route. But before I continue, I just want to thank you for having me on the show today to share my opinions on transit. So I think it was expected that they're going to go with the LRT, and a lot of it has to do with our mayor, the control that he had and the strategy that he had before going in to the vote. So I was a bit disappointed because I think Scarborough deserves subways. We already been shortchanged, and what I mean by that is when they built the Scarborough RT 20 years ago, it was really short-sighted. There was no long-term vision, and if there was, we probably wouldn't be having this debate over LRTs and subways. We'd be asking ourselves, which direction should we be extending the subways from Scarborough Town Centre? So I think definitely I was disappointed. I think this is not what a world-class city like Toronto should be doing, is investing in light rail transit, where they should be actually treating everyone equally, and Scarborough deserves its fair share, and I think they deserve subways.
Good. I think he's lobbed the starting ball. So on to you, Ashwin. Like, if you had a chance to address council and say, yes, you made the right decision, or support that, what would you have said to them?
See, I think we're looking at this issue from a very kind of narrow perspective, right? Because the way that public transit is funded, as Piragal was talking about, in the previous section, makes this whole decision-making process difficult. Like, Toronto taxpayers are paying the majority of the operating costs for the TTC, and this is a one-time kind of influx to build additional transit infrastructure. The province is giving Toronto $8.6 billion. It's the fixed amount, and as policymakers, the city and the bureaucrats should try to see how many residents they can serve with this fixed amount of money. And if you can serve residents on Sheppard from Don Mills all the way up to Morningside for less money, for 1/3 the cost that you can, for an above ground line, compared to having something from Don Mills to Scarborough Town Centre, I think that's the more kind of responsible approach to take. So I agree with Niro in that Scarborough deserves to have the best, but we have limited money, and the question isn't kind of should we have this or should we have that. I think it's what's the best way that we can use this $8.6 billion to serve as many people as possible.
This actually brings about a good topic that I wanted to bring up with you, is the idea of funding, right? You said that we have the $8.6 billion. So Niro, I mean, from what I'm reading, the TTC would cost, LRT would have cost $1 billion to install. The subway line solution would cost $3 billion. So it's 3 times as expensive. I mean, where is this money going to come from?
That's a good question, and that's something that council has to investigate even further. But Ashwin brings up made a great point. Scarborough deserves the best, so why not give Scarborough the best? And when you're making an infrastructure decision like transit in the city of Toronto, it costs money, right? There's no doubt about it. But there's no short-term solution or band-aid solution. We recognize that we made a mistake in the 1980s by building the Scarborough RT. It's aging now. What they should have done is extended the Bloor subway into Scarborough Town Centre. If they don't have the money right now, I think they should really investigate even further. They passed a motion earlier this week saying, you know what, they can raise parking levies and raise $100 million a year. That's a great start. But let's look at other options, right? This is going to cost money. There's no doubt about it. But Scarborough deserves the best. And if it means, I'm not saying we should raise property taxes or tolls, but you know what? We need to look at these options, and if it means having a referendum on this issue, I think we should do it, because creating a band-aid solution like the LRT, we're going to be asking ourselves 20 years from now, how do we get into this mess? Similarly, why we're asking today, how did we approve the Scarborough RT? Right? And there's going to be a lot more congestions. If it's simply money, we have to look at other options and bring those options forward so the people of Toronto can make a decision. And council members aren't just reading the pulse of the residents. Ford is going to Civic Center after Civic Center filled with people saying we want subways. Council members aren't really representing that vote.
So, I'm going to do just drop a point in here. I think just as a correction, the motion by Councillor Del Grande wasn't actually passed, but he had suggested one of increasing or employing parking levies, and I don't think it passed. But so what you're saying is that you would rather that they halt the decision right now, wait to see if they can find more money before they proceed. Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of difficult to say because, we're in the motions of just about to start construction on the Sheppard line. So it's kind of hard time to pull the plug because I know there's costs involved. There's cancellation of contracts. There's a lot of things to consider. But you know what? Fast forward 20 years from now, we're going to be asking the same questions. Why did we build the LRT? Why didn't council members or the leadership of Rob Ford have the foresight to say Scarborough deserves subways, City of Toronto deserves subways. Why didn't we make the right decision in 2012? So in the long run.
So I know Ashwin, you're
respond to this.
Okay, Ashwin, I'll give you, and then we have a caller, Murali, who will hold on line for a bit. Ashwin, I'll let you go.
There's kind of like 5 separate issues going on here, right? Like one is the City Council can't make all these changes. City Council doesn't have the money to fund infrastructure, right? So if we're going to build subways across Scarborough, we need that money to come from the province or the federal government.
Do you think they could actually raise that money with some of the suggestions that have been put on the plate?
You would have to implement taxes that are you'd have to have road tolls, property tax increases, all these additional taxes that City Council won't be able to pass politically. And I don't think it's fair for Toronto taxpayers to have to kind of shoulder all that burden, because Toronto's public transit system, as Mitzie and Piragal mentioned earlier, is benefits the entire kind of Ontario economy. There's a $6 billion loss due to traffic congestion, right? And that $6 billion is lost tax revenue that would be shared by everyone in the country. Right? And so Toronto City Council can't come up with the money, they can't come up with a politically feasible solution.
So you think the reality is it's money is a constraint. So I'm just going to stop you there for a second. Let's take a call. We have Murali on the line who has a question for our guest. Murali, go ahead.
Hi. I'm sorry for my rough voice. I have a bad cold.
That's okay. We can hear you clearly here. Go ahead.
I'm totally agree with Niro Mahan. If we don't do the subways now, when we will be. I don't think LRT is going to be a solution, which is going to be a band-aid solution, I think. Look at New York or look at England, London, England. I think this is the right time for us to build subways as opposed to LRT, because LRT will not, I think it will further aggravate our traffic congestion. Look at Sheppard construction now. I'm a frequent traveler of GO train, and my station is Aging Code. It's really a war zone passing Sheppard now. So, and the other thing is, I think people voted in Rob Ford because I think he was complaining when he was contesting for the mayor position. He was very clearly said that he's opting for subways, and people voted for subways. I don't know why councillors are opposing his view, which is, and I agree with Niro Mahan that we should go for a referendum to get the people's view before council make a decision on this.
Thank you, Murali. That's I'm sorry to interrupt you. That was a wonderful point that you made. So let me put that to Ashwin, and actually I'll phrase it this way, Ashwin. Why do you think, in answering that question, if you can also let us know, why do you think that you seem to believe that the LRT is the right solution for Sheppard East? Why is that?
I mean, it's just about doing what's possible. Politicians and policymakers have to be responsible and pragmatic. I think Rob Ford was very irresponsible when he made promises that were impossible for him to keep when he ran. He said he was going to cut all these taxes and he was going to cut all this revenue and still increase spending on transit, which if he did, some basic mathematics, he would have realized were impossible. So that's one aspect that we have to consider. And secondly, I think we should be careful when we talk about, when we have this kind of dialogue of people deserving things, like every university graduate deserves a job, like so many people deserve all these things. But what can governments reasonably provide with the money they have?
Which is what can taxpayers actually pay for?
What can taxpayers afford?
Yeah.
And what is possible? I mean, like, we can talk about deserving things, but if we can't reasonably provide them, then we should kind of just grow up and see what can happen with what we have. I disagree that the LRT is a band-aid solution. It's like it provides almost everything that a subway provides. It's just not underground. And subways, you know, for the Eglinton line, subways weren't even on the table. It was a question between the LRT being above ground or below ground. So the discussion's very, I think, like the way that the mayor and his allies on council are presenting it is a little dishonest, because they're not telling people what can be done. They're telling people what they what they deserve and what they should have, but which they have no plan at all in being able to come up with the money to provide that.
Okay, the reality check is important. I actually like your point about the fact that people are saying they deserve things across multiple quarters. We could cover that on another show. That's an interesting point. So, you know, let me take it to a different angle. We've talked about reality. We've talked about money. Tell me, what are some of the other sort of issues that you may have with the LRT solution?
LRT, I think, is short-sighted. Right, you know, and we're only discussing LRTs now is because it's Scarborough. The fact is, if this was you know, anywhere else outside of Scarborough within the city of Toronto, they would be demanding subways, right?
But why is that? Why do you think that they demand subways? I mean, what are the, you know, what are the things that put subways over LRT in terms of, be it congestion or any other points that you can think of? Like, if you had to do a 1-minute pitch, what would you say?
The LRT is also being built in the northwest along Finch West corridor. It's not just in Scarborough.
That's true. But what would you say is that, give me that 1-minute pitch for why you think that subways is superior, from everything from environmental, whatever other things that you can think of.
So picture this, you know, Sheppard Avenue the way it is today. If you're driving down, you're going to face several different conditions, whether it be weather. You know, we do live in Canada, so we're going to face, you know, tough weather conditions. This winter was, you know, pretty mild, but that's not to say, you know, years from now it's going to be, you know, pretty severe. And you're also going to face accidents, right? I know LRT is going to have dedicated lanes, but when it comes to an intersection, you're going to have to stop or you have to navigate around any accidents. So cars still have to face, you know, somehow be able to navigate around cars. So that's going to cause congestions. You know, and every time when it comes to the subways or the LRTs being underground hits the border of Scarborough, and automatically it doesn't reach Scarborough. Now, Ashwin, if you can tell me why, you know, the LRT goes underground on Eglinton, and the minute it hits Laird, which is almost the borderline of Scarborough, it's going above ground. Same with the Sheppard line. In 2002 we extended the subway from Yonge and Sheppard to Donmouth and Sheppard. The minute it's about to hit Scarborough, automatically goes above ground. There's no funding, but we can fund a transit subway system to Vaughan. We can fund the LRT on Eglinton to be underground, but we just can't do that for Scarborough. Doesn't Scarborough deserve a fair share?
So let me ask you: do you think that Scarborough is being treated unfairly here?
I think council members think Scarborough doesn't deserve all that money. All right, because they know if they build a subway, we're gonna have to extend it even further.
But
and they
council's not paying for it.
They think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
They definitely think they can get away with it. And if you want to change the image of Scarborough or clean it up or build it, we have to start investing properly in Scarborough. It takes money, and we have to rebuild the image of Scarborough.
So let me, Ashwin, I'll leave you.
Who's going to pay for it?
I'll leave you with the final point. You tell me, give me your 1-minute pitch for why you think the LRT was the right way to go.
If we had the money to build subways across Scarborough, I would be completely for it. I agree with everything that Niro is saying, that like subways across Scarborough would be great. If we could cover all the, you know, like the area that the LRT plan is supposed to cover.
And it's a lot. It's great. It's 25 stations over 7 stations.
And it's going all the way up to the northeast corner of the city, which is huge. Right now, it's only up to McCowan, which isn't even halfway into Scarborough. And we wouldn't go any further east with Rob Ford's current subway plan. So if we can cover the same amount of area with subways, if we had the money to do that, I think it would be great. But the bottom line is we can't. And what can we do with what we have right now? I mean, if we think that there's a conspiracy against Scarborough, then voters should keep this in mind when they go to vote. I mean, this isn't a new idea that came up. Like, the city and the province have been talking about this since 2005, right? And there have been like numerous assessments that have been done, and it's been costed by like economists and others who, you know, I'm sure don't really care either way, right? It wasn't a political decision to do this. It was.
Understood. So I know you're cousins, if I can reveal that. So I know that you have been having this argument at many a dinner table and family gathering, and I'm sure that this will continue. I'm sorry that I'll have to cut you off now. Thank you so much. I just have to say that it's lovely to see two people that are so engaged on this issue. I hope that other people continue to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We may have to have you back again when we have the funding discussion. So thank you. Let's take a short break here, and we will be viewing a clip of a movie that's actually premiering next weekend. It's called Waiting for Summer, and it looks really good. You are watching CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja.
I say that life is about a journey and not about a destination. I'm still looking for a beginning.
I'll be quiet and
So, how are you holding up? You know how you feel sometimes? You're not really sure about anything?
Love is a remedy. You didn't have your eyes on the road.
Yeah, well, the road wasn't beautiful.
What if I'm undecided? I hear your voice and then I try to find a place, run away, spend my days in isolation, undisturbed, unexcited, no one mentions I'm too quiet.
I'm gonna figure out how to stop spinning.
In these
Welcome back to CrossRoads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. You just watched a trailer for Waiting for Summer by Senthil Vinu. And he's with us in the studio today. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
So first of all, tell me how this came about.
Well, I mean, first you need to have the idea to start with for the movie. But having an idea is one thing, and having to actually, you know, able to use that idea and make the film, write the script and make the film is a different story. So the movie actually kicked off when I had written the story, and I had met Balamohan, who actually invested in the movie. He's the executive producer on the movie. I've known him for some time. I met him in a conference, and then we talked about the movie, and he was in the industry for the right reasons, and he had the right things, and that was very exciting for me, and he liked the project, and that's how it started. Basically, he said, "Okay, let's do it," and the project is.
And that was so. I mean, you're premiering at the Canadian Film Festival next weekend. Mm-hmm. Obvious, congratulations! That's quite an achievement. So tell me about the story. What is this about?
It's a very simple story. I'm not trying to address any specific issue. It's a story of two people trying to find a connection and a beginning in the city. They moved to the city, to Toronto, and how they find that beginning is the story, basically.
And how much was filmed in Toronto? What kind of what is the Canadian content here?
Well, people, you know, some of the people who have previewed, and even the people who worked in the movie, they say, oh, there's some sort of Canadian sensibilities, and I can't put the finger on it. But the movie is set in Toronto, and I want to put everything Canadian. You know, there's like bikes in there. I want to put streetcars in there. I used Toronto. You know, I used Toronto musicians. I used a musician from Vancouver. His name is, you know, Ben. Very young guy, but absolutely talented. And I was very particular about using local talent. And every actor that you see are, you know, in and around Toronto are from Canada.
So. What I'm trying to get an understanding of is that this would be considered an independent film, mm-hmm. right? And when people are considering different options, by the way, this is a card, I keep holding it up, but you've got these beautiful postcards.
Thanks.
You know, when people are considering entertainment, they might go out for that Bollywood movie or a Hollywood movie. You know, why is it? And people tell us, go support independent films. But what I want you to speak to is, Forget the support mentality. Why do you think people should see it? Like, how would it entertain me any differently to see this?
Well, I think you have to understand this is called Canadian Film Festival. So I think you shouldn't miss the word festival. It is a festival. So when you go to like see a movie in a AMC or in a Scarborough Town Center, you are just watching the movie and you have a popcorn and you're going to go home. That's not what's going to happen here. When you come to the movie, it's a real festival. You're going to meet people. They're all, they like films for various reasons. Either they like the issues in the film, or they are just like, like watching films. So if you like watching films, you come there. You're going to meet a lot of people, cool people, that you can hang out and meet and chill out and have a good time. Watch a movie and have and also meet all the cast, crew, Virginia, Caleb, the directors. Everybody's going to be there. So if you have any interest in filmmaking, there's another reason to show up. So it's not a typical thing. You go, you watch, and you're out.
You actually engaged and you meet the people behind the scenes.
It is a festival.
Yeah.
It is a festival. So don't miss that. Yeah.
So here's something interesting. I just found out recently that you used to have a career in IT. How did you end up? I mean, what prompted you? You don't do that now. I understand that you're doing this full time.
Yes.
How did you make the transition? What prompted you to make that change?
Well, I can never put IT behind. IT is always chasing me. Once I was chasing that once, now it's chasing me.
Okay.
I find it, for my personality and my interest, I find it very narrow. Like it puts me in a narrow alley. It's like whereas filmmaking, I have a lot of interests, and filmmaking opens up that to touch different areas of life and people and culture and all that. But whereas in IT, it is limiting. To me, IT is part of my as a person, it is part of me, not the only thing. That gives me. Whereas with filmmaking, it opens up a lot more stuff, and I learn a lot about it by doing these movies. And working with people is very rewarding. When you work in IT, you're working with a similar set of people. Unless if you're doing consulting or something like that. But in movies, you always go. You never know how their personalities are. For like 3 weeks, you work with them, and then you never see them for 2 years. Sometimes, and then you go on a next show and there's a different set of people. So it's wonderful that way. It's very rewarding. Yeah.
Now you might know some of these filmmakers already, but there have been other a series of other independent films that have come out of the Canadian Tamil community.
Sure.
1999 by Lennon Sivam, and $9.50 by Ranjit Joseph. So I want you to give our audience some idea of what are the difficulties involved with being someone who makes an independent film.
I think the number one difficulty is Lennon. He's a friend of mine. I know how he made the movie. I've heard the stories about it. We all have to find a way to make it in a very less budget. I think the biggest challenge is actually getting people to see it. Yes, I agree. Hollywood and Bollywood, it's all like jazzy stuff. But at the end of the day, Lennon's film 1999 is really talking about the community. At the same time, it's not like people misunderstand. It's like, oh, it's like a documentary in our sort of a community, but it's not. So I think the biggest challenge is actually people coming out and seeing it. But at the same time, I've had a conversation with Lennon about this. We are in our community. We're actually at the front of this thing. So sometimes you don't have the road put in for you.
You're definitely at the forefront. Yeah.
Yes, we don't have the road map already there, and then the roads put for us. We have to put the roads, and then we have to travel, and so that the people who come behind us will be able to travel on the same road. So it's helping each other out. So in terms of the community, come show up to the screenings and see it.
So how have you, since there hasn't been that roadmap, right? And obviously you've tried to make connections who can kind of teach you the trade. I hear that you're self-taught.
Yes.
How did you go about doing that?
Well, I always believed in learning by yourself. I know sometimes it takes longer, but the experience stays with you. So that's what it is. It is for me. If I go to a film school, I have taken courses. I take courses here and there, but I didn't do a concentrated like a film. I didn't go to film school. I took a screenwriting course. So I just work and I see, okay, where should I concentrate? Where's my strength, or where can I where my strength lies. That's basically it. So I like by doing it. So when you do it, the experience really stays with you long, and it gives you a perspective that you may not get just by reading a book.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. It is. I see what you mean. And also, I think you learn a lot from people too.
Absolutely.
Right? what have you done in the past? I'm curious. Like, tell us about some of your other pieces that people can look up.
Well, you can search me on YouTube. You will find a couple of short films. I have made films in US, which has been shown in Asian Film Festival Dallas in 2003, and I made another couple of films there, which has been shown in the film festivals there. In Toronto, I made two films called Happy Birthday Anna and Hi. They are short films, which has been shown in 2018 Real World Film Festival and Toronto Urban Film Festival. So I did do the short films, and then I know, okay, I'm ready to make a feature. I've logged enough hours to know that I can do it. Yeah.
Good for you. So whenever I meet people like you, people that are in the trade, I'm always curious to find out, what are some of your favorite movies?
Oh, wow.
Is that a tough one?
Oh, it is a tough one.
Because you probably have a vast array of ones that you like.
Yeah, I have like a 200 list of movies that I need to see. I haven't seen it.
What have you seen that you like?
Well, I think I have favorite movies, but I don't rate movies. Every movie teaches you different. It's like a different person. You meet them, they offer you something different. Yeah. So I don't like to rate movies saying this is top, this is.
So what is a movie that you would consider if you had made it, you would have been proud of making this movie?
Oh, great! That's a good question. I can answer that. I think there's a Japanese movie called Rashomon.
Oh yeah, Rashomon by
Kurosawa.
Kurosawa, yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies. Every time I look at it, I was like, I wish I made that.
You know what? That's one of my all-time favorite
movies too. Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there's something about life that I get when I see that movie, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Matrix is another movie that I would have loved to have made it, because I like making science fiction movies. I haven't gotten there, but eventually, maybe I'll get there. Matrix is one of the movies that I would have loved to make. Terminator is one of the movies that I would love to make.
Okay.
That's one of the movies which really, exploded my interest in
really?
film.
The Terminator, that's interesting. Okay. So Rashomon, the Terminator, and what was the other one?
Matrix.
The Matrix, actually, the Matrix is there. So we share some favorites here. So tell me how we can get to this premiere. Like, give us the details. Where can we get tickets? Where is it?
Well, you can go to the Facebook, if you search for the film, Waiting for Summer, it's just Facebook / Waiting for Summer film, or you can Google it, But the tickets, you can buy it online. Like if you go to the Facebook page, you can buy it online, but you could buy it also on Ticket Web.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can also go to the film festival website, which is canfilmfest.ca, not com.
Canfilmfest.ca.
CA, yeah. Okay. You could find the tickets there. It's on Friday night, March 30th, 7.
So this Friday.
This Friday.
What time again is it?
7:45 p.m.
You'll be there with your
Of course,
cast and crew.
I will have everybody's there, and hopefully. We can have a great premiere.
I think it will. I know our other guests that were here said they were interested in coming, so it's a
absolutely
great
that would be fabulous. Yeah, and I invite all your viewers to come and check out the film. And it's a Friday night. It could be a date night too.
Well, there you go. And it sounds like it's a love movie, so why not? At least there's a relationship in there somewhere.
There's a relationship there. It's not heavy.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to tackle any serious issues. It's just like almost like a music. It's like listening to a nice music. You just come there and you listen to it. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Well, the audience has heard it from you. So it's on this Friday, and go out to support and actually enjoy this movie as well. It goes beyond the support. Thank you so much for being here. Such a pleasure having you here. For more information, you can visit www.canfilmfest.ca. So let me say that again. It's www.canfilmfest.ca. You've been listening to Manjula Salvaraja on CrossRoads on TVI. Please remember to tune in next week. My co-host Parthi Kandavil will be here. It's been a wonderful show. We've discussed some great topics, and we hope to have the same thing again in about a week. Have a wonderful week.